And we're live, broadcasting from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and thank you so much for joining us for our unique podcast community where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished artists. And thank you so much for helping us grow. We recently hit 1,760 subscribers, and every day we grow thanks to you. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. If you want to see our past over 245 episodes, check out our website at www.jasontramm.net. Again, that's www.jasontramm.net. We have a spectacular guest today. We have rising superstar dramatic tenor Limmie Pulliam, whose recent performance with Los Angeles Opera was hailed as stentorian yet beautiful, his singing. And he's got lots of important debuts coming up in some of the most exciting repertoire in opera. We're delighted to have him. Welcome, Limmie.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. And now you're based in Missouri. How are things in Missouri these days?
Not too bad. Things are a little crazy with COVID as they are in most places, but the weather's not too bad at the moment, and we're just kind of hunkering down and trying to stay well in preparation for some upcoming performances.
So you do some of my favorite repertoire, and it's always so rare to find a true dramatic singing this repertoire, and when we do, it's exciting. So what was it like to do Manrico at LA, and get such incredible applause, bravo, and so tell us about that repertoire, the journey into the repertoire.
It was an incredible experience working with LA Opera. From the very beginning, I was welcomed into the company, and their sole goal was to make sure that I had a successful debut. And I think that was accomplished. From the very beginning, the music staff, Maestro Conlon, the administration, were there for me 100% from the very beginning.
That's incredible. And just the start of things to come as your career blossoms and grows. Why don't we go back to the beginning? Did you always know you wanted to be an artist?
Not necessarily. I was kind of a jock growing up. Was into athletics. I played multiple sports. I played football, baseball, basketball, and I also did the throwing events in track and field. So I was constantly involved in some type of athletic endeavor, and that lasted up until high school. And
did you sing in the choir as well? Were you already singing at
that
point?
I started singing in chorus in about 6th grade. Didn't take it very seriously. I was somewhat of what I know now, a lazy tenor, sitting in the bass section. And just kind of there because that's where my friends were, and I wanted to be with my friends. And around 8th grade is when my choral director actually discovered that I could sing. I knew I could sing, but I never let on to anyone else that I knew I could sing.
Do you come from a musical family?
Not necessarily. I come from my dad's a preacher, so I grew up singing in church. I do have musical people in my family. I had an uncle who was kind of a prolific gospel singer in our area. I had a cousin who recorded for the Stax record label out of Memphis back in the 70s, and had some success with that. And but as far as musicians, I'm the only performer within my immediate family.
But it's there in the genetic pool.
Yeah, it's there. It's there in the genetic pool, definitely. But not all of us wanted to be in the public eye.
As I find with a lot of people who sing this repertoire, you have a real baritonal kind of hue to your tenor, which brings that incredible musculature. So you started as a baritone. When did you start to make that? Did you go to conservatory as a baritone or a tenor?
Well, I think I was always a tenor, but I was just lazy and didn't know how to access the upper part of my register in a classical way. But my teacher discovered when she heard me doing an impersonation of Stevie Wonder in 8th grade that I actually had a range that was, that's when she discovered I was actually a tenor and moved me to the tenor section. So, but yeah, I just didn't know how to access it at a young age.
And that's the larger voices always take time to settle too. It's just not the coloraturas are born singing that out of the womb, but not the dramatic tenors.
No, definitely, it definitely takes time. Yeah.
So you're undergraduate, you get there. Where did you study?
Oberlin Conservatory of Music.
A wonderful place,
Had
certainly.
had
And
the privilege of working with the late great Richard Miller there. Of the structure of singing fame, the training tenor voices, training soprano voices, the schools of singing. Was very lucky to have the opportunity to work with him.
and did you participate in some of the? What was your first productions there? What was your first opera production ever?
My first opera production ever, I sang Don Basilio in Le Nozze di Figaro, in an English performance at Oberlin, conducted by Maestro Robert Spano.
Wow. And did Jonathan Field stage direct that one?
No, Judith Lang was still there at the time, and she retired. I'm thinking she retired the next year, or maybe and then Jonathan came in, and Jonathan and I had the opportunity to do two productions together. I sang Romeo and Romeo and Juliet, and Don Jose and Carmen with Jonathan.
Some great music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So now the journey, the artist's journey, for those who may not be so familiar with the opera singer's career path, I mean, it takes a long time to go through the conservatory system, to get into the young artist program. Tell us about your young artist days.
Well, it's my route, as like most people, was very different. Um, at the point where I should have been entering the young artist phase and auditioning for yaps and whatnot, I actually stopped singing. I left the industry, um, and was out of the industry for a little over 10 years, actually closer to 12. Um, Pursuing other interests, I became disheartened with the industry. Just lost the drive and the desire to perform. And, I always promised myself if it ever stops being fun, I'm going to find something else to do. So I did. And that turned out to be a great blessing because it allowed my voice to mature and grow and to kind of settle without having all those years of unnecessary mileage put on it. Singing with a lot of the bad habits that young singers can develop. So it gave me some time to kind of let the muscle memory forget some of those habits and to come back fresh.
Dramatic voices do take their own time, don't they?
Yeah,
There's no timetable for that.
yeah. It was interesting. It was I stopped singing in January of 2000, and it was actually in 2007 2008 is when I discovered the changes in my voice. So I began working kind of quietly on my own for the next few years, kind of redeveloping, working on the technique, getting the voice back in shape. And yeah, it took me a few years to kind of get things ready to get back out there.
And what repertoire were you singing when you left? And what repertoire did you start with
It
when
was
you
it
returned?
was a lot of full lyric repertoire. Um, I was the Don Jose's, the Romeos. Um, I'd sung the Nemorino several times. Um, you know, the Rodolfo's, Alfredo's, stuff of that nature.
Has the top always come easy to you when you put it all together? Was that something that was always?
Well, yeah, once I kind of figured things out and learned how to access it, the top was always relatively easy for me. Um, it took some adjustment coming back to it, because the voice had, kind of matured and kind of darkened a bit over those years. Um, so I had to make a few adjustments technique wise to kind of maintain the ease of the top. But it's the top has always been fairly secure and pretty easy for me.
And looking at the repertoire that's on the docket now, I'm looking at Otellos and Manricos and some of the most grand and hardest roles traditionally. But I always find that when the voice is built for it, like when there's the certain voices, it's not it fits like a glove. Do you find that to be the
Yeah,
case with those roles?
yeah, it really does. It really does. Otello is a role that really kind of sits well for me. It feels good in the voice. Um, I've had the pleasure of singing it several times now. Um, and the first time I actually sang it, um, I was very ill at the time with a cold.
Oh no.
Um, I couldn't speak, but yet I could phonate enough to sing the role. Um, and it was a great learning experience for me to be able to do that, because I realized that you know it probably would not be any more difficult than that going forward.
Yeah, I talk about trial by fire. I tell my students at the university I teach that that technique is for when you're not 100%, that you have that security that you
Yes,
could always
yes.
deliver, right? That's
Technique and great colleagues. That's basically what got me through my first Otello performance.
wow. And apparently, I know you've got the Otello coming up, and I know Erie Mills is here joining us and chatting. That in Livermore Valley,
Hey,
California,
Yuri.
Livermore Valley Opera. That's so exciting. Is that going to be your first fully staged production of Otello?
Yes, this will be my first fully staged production, and I'm really looking forward to getting out to Livermore to get started on this. To work with Elaine Alvarez and Philip Skinner, and it's production conducted by Candice Evans, and Alexander Katzman will be conducting. So we've got a great team in place, and I think it's going to be a great first fully staged run for me.
Well, it's so exciting to hear those, to hear a new fresh voice to Otello, and I think that there's a lot of Otellos in your future. That's very exciting. So, what's it like? Everyone's career, like yours, was really blossoming during right before COVID, right? 2020. Lots of big projects on the dock, and all of a sudden, COVID comes and everyone's grounded. How did you deal with that?
Well, it required some thought and kind of just adjusting to the times. We're constantly having to adjust to what's going on. But you know, the onset of COVID kind of quickened that adjustment, so to speak. A lot of us had to kind of play catch up when it came to the technical aspects of things and being able to work virtually. Um, Luckily for me, I had some experience with electronics and audio and whatnot to be able um, to make that change. But it really, I think the biggest thing is that it kind of gave artists more control over their own careers. Um, for that time period, they no longer had to go through the gatekeepers in the industry, and anywhere you could set up a camera and a microphone became a stage.
Isn't that amazing?
So yeah, yeah. So it was great. You got to, we were introduced to a lot of great artists who otherwise wouldn't have had a platform had it not been for the onset of COVID.
You have over 1,400 subscribers on your YouTube channel. People discover your music, and that's open to the entire world. I think that's such a great platform for artists today. I call this the era of the indie artist because we feature a lot of indie artists on the show, and some of them have millions of followers and supporters all over the world. And I just find it so that there's such a way to get you, once you find your people, to keep your music out there and to grow your audience. I think it's pretty special.
Yeah, it's YouTube has been great for me. Social media in general has been good for me, and publicizing and getting my music out there. I actually got my first job upon returning to the industry through YouTube from
Wow.
someone who saw a YouTube clip. I've since been roped into joining other platforms: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, which we just surpassed over 10,000 followers on TikTok.
I haven't joined the TikTok yet. My daughter, I have 19-year-old daughters, and I'm like, man, I just did Instagram, and I'm like, I guess I'll do this too. But it really is amazing what you can do and how you can spread the word. And
Yeah,
how
yeah.
are you using
Lots of
TikTok?
opera lovers out there.
Give me.
I'm posting clips. I've done a duet or two with a couple of other people that are on there who play piano. I've post some of my practice sessions, um, and I'm in the process now of having to make a video for my 10,000th follower. Got to make a special request.
Nice.
So yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do this one. They requested Largo al Factotum, so
Put it up a third.
yeah, yeah. So we'll make it happen somehow.
That's great. I love to see artists interacting with their audiences and reaching new people because, the way opera is consumed has to change because it's
Yes,
generally an older audience. I mean, I conduct
yes,
operas and I
yes.
go to operas and I look around and I say we have to bring. I teach university. We have to bring young people to the theaters to keep this art
You
form
know,
vibrant.
and the young people are out there. The young people are interested in this art form. I recently did an interview with a podcast in Italy that was run by a couple of teenagers, two young men, 16 and 15, have their own opera podcast, and they contacted me and asked me if I would come on and do an Italian language interview with them, and it was great fun, and they had great knowledge of the repertoire, and so it was great fun.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that the youth is embracing this and. The Italians created opera. They shared it with the world, and it's been one of the great gifts to us from Italy.
Yeah, yeah.
That and pizza, maybe pasta. So, what's in the immediate? What are the plans you have right now? Do you ever perform music outside of the opera realm?
I do. I grew up singing gospel music, which will always be my first love, um, and I'm looking forward to next month making my debut at Fort Worth Opera on their A Night of Black Excellence concert, and I'm actually going to be doing some opera and a duet, and I'm actually going to be singing some gospel music
Wow.
on that concert, which should be great fun. It's going to be, you know, a lot of great artists, myself, Karen Slack, Brandy Sutton, Michelle Major. Their young artists are going to be involved, and it's going to be a great night.
We're seeing just a
February 20th in Fort Worth. So if you're in
February
the
20.
area, get your tickets.
That's not going to be missed. We've had Michelle Johnson on the show. I've worked with her. She's wonderful and a sweet person. And I think it's going to be an amazing concert. And of course, the other artists I know, all of them, they're going to be truly a wonderful night. What's it like
Yeah,
singing gospel on the same night?
well, it's for me, it's second nature because it's where I started. Um, you know, not much changes. The technique is for me is the same. It's just a matter of vocal placement in a sense. Um, but looking forward to the concert in Fort Worth. Um, you know, the concert was curated by Karen Slack and the Fort Worth General Director Afton Battle, and they have put together an absolutely amazing team to come together to create this concert, and a great group of artists. And I can't encourage people enough to to get their tickets now because it really will be a night to remember.
Is there a live stream option for the folks who listen? We have folks who listen to the show from all over.
That I don't know right now. I have to kind of double check it out. They first did this concert last year, and it was a virtual concert, and it was a huge success virtually. So it's quite possible that they may have some sort of streaming option, if not live, after the fact. They may make it available.
I mean, COVID had so many negatives, obviously, with the mental health challenges, with all the performances canceled, but it also taught us so much. And for
Hmm.
example, the live streaming option, the virtual concerts, providing the art, even though we couldn't be live. So we learned so much. So I'm amazed by the way that companies are producing things simultaneously virtual, simultaneously live. I think that's one of the real innovations.
Yes, yes, and I think it's going to be a great way to get the art form in front of new eyes as well. So
Absolutely. And also, one of the innovations was, or certainly one of the positives to come out, is we're seeing so many new voices in the field. Especially many African American colleagues are performing, and who are always performing, but I think that, COVID opened our eyes to a lot of these, to the inclusion of new people, and I think that's just really been a wonderful thing for the art form.
well, as I said before, the onset of COVID, gave a platform to people who otherwise wouldn't have had one. Um, the industry is starting to see and recognize the vast amount of talent there is among artists of color. Um, and for so long, these artists, myself included, were just denied opportunities. And we've kind of gotten to a point to where, um, there have been a lot of serious discussions had and debates about the issue, and after the death of George Floyd, that kind of opened the door for very serious conversations that needed to be had within our industry. And a lot of companies have listened. Some haven't, but hopefully they'll come around. But many companies were receptive um, to acknowledging the changes that needed to be made. Um, there have been some companies out there who, even before the George Floyd murder, were already doing the work to ensure equity within the industry, and they've continued to step up their game. Um, you know, Companies like Atlanta Opera, LA Opera, um, have always been doing the work to ensure that the artists they present look like their audiences and look like the communities in which they present their art.
And it takes years for these type of institutional changes to happen, but it happens so quickly. I think we're seeing it at the young artist level as that next generation of performance is coming up. And I think this is really going to broaden our field in ways that we never could have imagined before these things happened.
Definitely, definitely.
I wonder if we're seeing the same thing in Europe. I'll have to see how the European companies are
Well,
embracing
it's been a while
diversity.
since I've been over there, so I'm probably not the best person to ask about what's going on in Europe right now.
Now you're blazing the American and the States. Do you have European plans on the books?
I would love to go back to Europe to perform, and nothing on the books right now, but that can always change, and when it does, I'll be ready.
I think so. That's very exciting with these roles you're singing and what you're working on. I have a question from the audience. Someone asks, "Is it true that you were a bodyguard in your past?"
Yeah, actually, during the years I wasn't singing. Part of that time, I owned and operated my own security firm in St. Louis, and we did a lot of personal protection and a lot of large event um, planning, security planning. We oversaw security for the St. Louis Mardi Gras, which was the second largest in the nation after New Orleans. I got to work with a lot of great celebrities, musicians, actors, and other artists during that time. So yeah, it was great fun. Great fun.
Something totally different. I love that everyone's got such a unique story, and that's a really fascinating one. Any stories from that period you care to share that might be interesting to people
Uh,
who know you in the opera
no,
world?
none that I share publicly. No.
So now when you're on the road, you have your own security team, and you're fully aware. We see with I was I'm the music director of a summer program called Ocean Grove, and we had Kenny Rogers was doing a show, and he was at the end of his career before he died, and he was at one time one of the biggest stars in music. Right, he had a huge
Oh yeah.
career,
Oh yeah.
and he would leave the stage, and he would have people surrounding him, putting him in his limousine, like it was the funniest thing because no one's trying to rush a 75-year-old Kenny Rogers. I was out there just kind of watching him do this. It was just the funniest thing. It's
Well, once you
amazing.
get used to that, type of having that type of entourage with you, it's hard to let it go.
Even the greatest stars in opera, I don't think have that type of Lady Gaga security.
No, but it's for me. It's good to have that knowledge when you're traveling as much as we do, to kind of have that self awareness and of your surroundings and knowing how to take care of yourself if need be. So
Speaking of taking care of yourself, most being an international singer, being a traveling professional artist, you spend a lot of time on your own. How do you maintain your balance in your life when you have such a busy performing schedule?
again, that's where technology comes in and plays a great role. Um, you know, through FaceTime and Skype or Marco Polo or whatever other type of WhatsApp, you can stay connected to friends and family around the world, with just the push of a button. So that's one way that really helps me um, is to stay connected to the people I love and the people I care about, and people who help to keep me grounded, um, and not to lose sight of what's really important. Um, so I'm extremely thankful for technology, to be able to provide that for us. When you spend, you know 5 months on the road, which I did last year, um, it really helps to be able to have that connection with people, with your family and friends.
Being a performer at that level, certainly you have to have a team behind you. Are you studying? Do you still study voice? Are you coaching? How do you add that to your schedule?
Yeah, I still coach. Try to coach regularly. Oh, sorry, just lost one of my earpieces. Um, and still take voice lessons. I studied for a while with for a number of years with a teacher out of Memphis who sadly passed away last year, um, and have recently just started with a new teacher. And so I'm working with him, and having some great success, and doing lots of coachings. I just had a coaching yesterday, my coaching on Otello yesterday afternoon, and things are going well.
And
So
I,
you never stop learning.
no, that's for sure.
You have to keep learning no matter what you do.
We've had some elder statesmen performers who've been in the business for a very long time at a high level, and they were telling us, we talk about this all the time. I'm fascinated to how the voice changes during the course of your career, how roles kind of shift in and shift out, and kind of you're
Hmm.
preparing new ones, and and your voice, every 7 years, basically, it's like almost like a different instrument. You're constantly shifting and adjusting.
Well, and in some of the repertoire I sing, it can be from production to production. Immediately after Trovatore, which was a new role for me, I sang another new role of Turidu and Cavalleria. So it was, to do those back to back, it was two completely different things. And even though Cavalleria isn't a long opera, it is quite the barn burner for the tenor.
It's full out.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, from the very start. There's no dip your toe in and check the temperature of the water. You're going, head first into
That
the
was the
deep
first
end.
opera. I was the offstage conductor and chorus master, and that was my first production. And I had Lando Bartolini singing that, who had done it more
Oh
than
wow, what a
he,
voice!
back in the day. And he was an older gentleman, but boy, he opened his. He was a small little guy. Like I thought he was
Yeah.
like I didn't know what he was. He came in the room, he was like, and then he opened his mouth, and it was just so exciting to hear him. And he would always joke around backstage. I just loved working with the exciting tenors, but. Yeah, thrilling repertoire you sing. Any plans for Wagner?
Someday, I'm in no rush to get there. I've tinkered with some of the arias and whatnot to kind of just to see how they feel, and I've
Pave the
sung them in
way.
competition. Yeah, I've sung some Wagner in competitions before. Um, yeah, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but it's not something that I'm looking. I won't say I'm not looking to do it. I'll say I don't expect it to happen in the next couple seasons. We'll see, but we'll see.
What are some of the dream roles? You're already doing a lot of the dream roles. Manrico is always one of them for most tenors, right? That's always one of the ones.
Hmm.
Di Quella Pira, and certainly. And what are
Yeah,
some of the ones you have
obviously,
done?
Manrico and Otello are both just dream roles for me. Others would include Calaf and Turandot. Um, I would love to. Let's see. Dick Johnson, Fanciulla. Um, Goodness, Canio was obviously another dream role, which I've had the opportunity to sing. There's so many others. Andrea Chenier. Um, just so many other things that I would love to do.
I think those are put them out there. I think the I heard your Nessun Dorma certainly on the recording, and I can't wait to hear you in
Hmm.
that role because it's one of my favorite operas certainly, and just one of the greats, and it's going to be beautiful when you put all that together.
Well, looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I was scheduled for a call off last season, and ended up having to pull out of the production because the LA thing popped up, and they were gracious enough to to allow me to go to LA instead. So
Well, that's going to be something you better get used to, is managing your time very carefully. What do you do when you're not performing opera or practicing? What do you do when you have downtime?
I love I'm a movie buff. I've gotten into tinkering with graphic design a bit. Um, you know, tinker with photography a little bit, and um, you know, a lot of it has to deal with the graphic arts and graphic design and whatnot. Becomes useful for me with my websites and other social media and whatnot. So uh, it's definitely enhancing skills that can be a benefit to me as a performer. So
We're seeing a lot of opera singers of a high level doing a lot of other things too. Like they're branching out into new ways and trying new
mhm.
things. I'm just amazed by how creative the creative class can be. I know some people who sell jewelry. I know some who
Yeah,
design.
Carl Tanner, the tenor
That's right,
who does
sure.
jewelry. I have a great friend, Daniel Okulich, who during this time has had three crossword puzzles appear in the New York Times,
That's amazing.
and he's gotten into that. It's it's just amazing the skills that people have.
Yeah, I'm always interested in people who can, people see people in one lens. But right now, I think COVID forced us all to think differently, to think how can we expand what we do, because you just sometimes it's nice to have that second option when you're not doing one thing. You can always like do another. There's so many. The people who are opera singers have to have so many talents, and it's really fun to see that people do different things.
Yeah, it's you always used to hear back in the day, the parents and whatnot would always say you got to have something to fall back on, and so during COVID we've definitely seen all the hidden talents that a lot of people have.
Lots of great podcasts. You mentioned Kiki Slack and her podcast, and the Screaming
Yeah,
Divas, and it's just great to see
yeah, so
people.
many with Karen and Larry Brownlee with the sit down with LB, Kenneth Overton's Black Opera podcast. I even did a short little podcast with Listen Up with Lemmy, where I got to interview um, some of the artists who inspired me to become an artist myself. Had the pleasure of sitting down with Cheryl Milnes and Grace
Mm.
Bumbry, and among others. So it was yeah, lots of great of great content out there if you go look for it. Lots of great interviews. Karen has some absolutely wonderful interviews with some great artists on Kiki Conversations. So I would advise anyone who's looking for some insight from other artists to go seek her seek her out and check on some of her back episodes.
Yeah, it's great to see that people can really get a behind the scenes look, and get to meet people in a way that you can't do in an interview, like a 5 minute interview. You really get to explore what a person thinks, and I just love the podcast format. It's opened up a lot of eyes about how the arts are and behind the scenes looks, and people really want to see that. It's like more, it's so honest.
Yeah, and and it's become so accessible to people. Um, a lot of us never even gave a thought to this prior to COVID, and now you can do very professional podcasts and be it audio or video, from the comfort of your own home, and and it's kind of changed the game a bit for us.
It's great that you mentioned Kenny Overton. Kenneth Overton was my first baritone soloist. We did a show together when I was my first conducting gig, and we
Oh
grew up.
wow.
Him and I sang together in the cathedral in Newark, and a terrific guy, and he's doing wonderful. And I just conducted on the
Yeah,
Lincoln Center Messiah
he's doing
Sing.
some great things right now um, with some movie work that he's doing that you'll have to have him on to talk about it. But he's doing some really great stuff.
It's great to see
Yeah.
friends doing amazing things, and there's just so much out there. And well, Lemmy, I want to thank you for joining us today. And so, what's the next? You got the next performance in Fort Worth, and then your Otello in Livermore Valley Opera in California. When's that?
hmm the Livermore Otello opens on March 5th, the weekend of March 5th. So we have performance on the March 5th and the 6th, and then the 12th and the 13th. and it's I think it's going to be a great show. And then after that, I have my first Beethoven 9 with the Memphis Symphony coming up at the end of March. And then we'll have, I think I'm in DC in June, working with a small company there for kind of experimental production that they've put together um, based on Otello. It's for a group called the N Series, and they're doing sort of a mashup of Otello. It's a 2-night performance, Otello and Desdemona, as it's called. The first night deals with Otello, and it has music from the Verdi, which we'll be singing in English translation. And the second night deals with Desdemona, which will feature music from Nina Simone and text from Toni Morrison's book Desdemona.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it sounds very interesting, and hopefully it turns out to be a pretty rewarding project.
Well, with you singing, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. Where can people go to find out more about Limmie Pulliam?
Well, they can go to my website, which is www.lemmiepulliam.com, LIMMIEPULLIAM.com. I'm also on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, YouTube under Limmie Pulliam, and Facebook under Limmie Pulliam Tenor. And yeah, so I'm on every major platform. So I'm easy to
Easy to
find.
find. So find this great artist, follow him, and keep up with his upcoming concerts. And I look forward to seeing where you go next and what's in store for you as your career grows and blossoms.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. And remember, please subscribe on YouTube and smash that bell icon. Check out our videos, our past episodes on www.jasontram.net. Thank you so much, and remember, keep music alive.